Welcome back to Travolting. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering I Am Rat. Enjoy the episode. Episode 66. That's right, folks.
It will be done, my lord.
You are tuning in to episode 66 of Travolting. A momentous occasion. And Stuart, what movie are we celebrating this with?
We're celebrating episode 66 with a film title known as
I Am Wrath. Yes. A movie that is 80% opening logos and then about 20% movie.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I didn't know when this movie was going to start because it was all like logos at the front end.
Oh my God, the logos kept going.
Yeah, they did. And like, you know, that's always a telltale sign when it comes to movies of like how shady is it going to be based on how many film logos that you have, because that just means like they had to pool so many resources from different places. But yeah, had like 5 different production companies at the beginning.
Yes.
And all that stuff.
This movie starts off, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to the movie. We got to do a little context corner first. But,
yes.
You know, this movie does start off and it's like, you see a logo and you're like, okay, this company, and then there's another logo. I swear to God, it's like 1.5 to 2 minutes of logos. It's crazy.
It honestly is.
And it ends with the craziest one I've ever seen called Patriot Pictures. Do you see this?
Yes, I did.
Where it's like,
who is Patriot Pictures?
It's like a Civil War battlefield.
Yes.
And then there's just like the Statue of Freedom or whatever the fuck she's supposed to be.
And like our old Liberty flag or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, she's holding like the Old Glory flag.
Old Glory flag.
Yes. And she's waving it, and then it zooms out. It's like doo 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 doo. I'm watching it right now. And it's like in a bullseye. Oh my word.
Jeff, do you know the film's tagline to this?
Yes, the tagline of this movie is "I will lay my vengeance down upon them," in reference to Pulp Fiction, because Travolta has not been able to do anything since Pulp Fiction.
Do you remember Pulp Fiction?
What a great movie!
What a great movie that was, and what a horrible occasion for all of these bad movies to try to suck the honey out of the teat of Pulp Fiction.
We got to talk about. Okay, I found Patriot Pictures website. Do you want to know what their mission statement is?
Yes.
So they were established in 2005.
Yeah.
Their mission statement is Patriot Pictures aims at entertainment that inspires social awareness, spotlighting good versus evil in society throughout history and engaging audiences to participate in positive social change.
That's Patriot Pictures.
That's Patriot Pictures. Did
they have a new CEO come in later?
Did this movie... They're aware of what they're advocating for in this movie.
Right.
This has got to be some like extreme alt-right company or something, right?
Well, no,
this movie's about if they're trying to do positive social change, this movie's about how they're like, yeah, it's great. Guys should just get back tattoos and go out and just start killing drug dealers. And that's how we're going to fix our country.
And kill corrupt governors.
Yeah, and kill corrupt governors. There's a direct line from this movie to January 6th, 2021.
And wasn't there already, like, you know those guys in Michigan that were arrested for plotting to kidnap the governor of Michigan? Like, do you think they watched this movie before and like, we could do that?
Yeah. They're like, if John could do it, if Travolta could do it.
If Christopher Meloni could do it.
If Christopher Meloni could.
Oh my God, are we going to talk about Detective Elliot Stabler?
Did his dad bod really unsettle you in this movie?
Oh, he's dad bod.
No, he's like kind of ripped, but also kind of not.
Jeff.
It's just not the way I expect to see Christopher Meloni.
How much of a fan are you of Christopher Meloni?
Do you want to hear tragic information?
Oh, no.
I've never seen a single episode of Law & Order SVU.
All right, time out.
Or any Law & Order.
Time out. Okay, so Christopher Meloni in SVU is a daddy. he is a daddy.
I don't deny it.
And not
I do not deny
only
it.
is he a daddy, but he is a daddy who also works as a police officer who investigates sexual assault and rape cases. And
keep going.
I like, that's it. Like, that's but that's it. But that's enough.
No, but
like,
no.
he's a guy who respects the term of like consent and like informed consent and like positive sexual relationships. Like, this is a guy that you want to like cuddle up in bed with every night and you're going to feel safe with.
Yeah. No, I like Christopher Meloni well enough. Every movie I've seen him in, he's been good. He's good in this.
He is good in this.
He's maybe better. He's more locked in than Travolta in this, probably.
Honestly, okay, so hear me out. Like,
Oh
so
my Lord.
last week we talked about a movie called In a Valley of Violence.
Yes.
And I said the same thing about In a Valley of Violence. Or not, no, I didn't say the same thing about In a Valley of Violence. There was something about In a Valley of Violence I think could have been carried over with this film, which was with this movie, I think if you swap, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but if you swap the roles and make Christopher Meloni the main actor, and then John Travolta is the guy that comes in like 45 minutes in the movie and he
says some crazy shit.
Says some crazy shit, does some crazy boss ass moves, and then dips. Then that makes this movie already 30.
Christopher Meloni has one move in this movie, and it is appear behind the bad guy. Because Travolta, when they have Travolta corner, and he's like, "I'm not alone," and then Christopher Meloni just shoots the guy. It happens 6 to 7 times in this movie.
He has some cool fighting moves.
The same bit happens 6 to 7 times in this movie.
The dude kills 3 drug dealers who corners him in his barbershop.
Yes.
By the way, Christopher Meloni owns a barbershop in this.
Yes.
That's a funny thing because Christopher Meloni never has hair.
Okay,
but he's honest about it, unlike Travolta, who
is wearing quite the wig in this movie. I have something to say about that when we get to it.
Okay. Context corner.
Yeah, let's dive right into the context corner.
Yes.
So this movie actually has interesting history to it. It comes out in 2016, as we know, May 6th of 2016. But before this movie starred John Travolta, and it was directed by Chuck Russell. Mm-hmm. Originally, it was set up in the year of our Lord, 2012, to be directed by William Friedkin, he of The Exorcist. And it was going to star Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
And it was set up as like one of the late stage Cage action movies, directed by Friedkin in his later stage where he was going for some movies kind of like in this vein.
Yeah.
But over time, both of them dropped out, and eventually the script makes its rounds, and it makes it to Travolta, who signs up along with director Chuck Russell, who has one of the weirdest careers out there.
What is Chuck Russell's career?
So Chuck Russell, his first movie was Nightmare on Elm Street 3. He then does The Blob, the Jim Carrey Mask movie, The Scorpion King, Dwayne Johnson. He does some other movies that don't exist, and then he does this. I mean, I like a fair bit of those movies. I like Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I like The Mask. Just a very strange career.
Yeah.
He's like basically the poster child of a journeyman in Hollywood.
Yeah.
The guy who just like pops up, does a competent enough job, and then gets out.
Hey, graduating from University of Illinois.
Oh, wow.
He's a Chicago guy.
He's also directing the upcoming Travolta movie Paradise City, so we will be talking about him again whenever that movie comes out. We don't think it's going to make it in time for us to finish our show on it,
unfortunately.
But we'll talk about it when we'll come back.
Yeah.
But no, this originally set up as a Friedkin Cage vehicle, shifts over to a Russell Travolta vehicle. And Travolta, he starts getting into it, and he starts kind of structuring this as his comeback movie for like the 4th time. Because if you watch this movie, there is a lot of shared DNA between this and John Wick.
Yeah.
Almost to a scary degree. It's extremely similar movies.
But so does In a Valley of Violence that we talked about last week.
Yes. Yeah, that has a different way of being like John Wick.
Yeah.
But no, this, like, it has the structure of, like, guy goes on, an old action star who's kind of washed up at this point. Travolta in this, or Keanu in 2014.
Yeah.
Kind of comes back, gets back to their roots, does just a really well-made, really hyper-competent action vehicle with, like, a solid plot, a simple plot, really stylishly directed. And that's basically what, like,
they were trying for this.
Yeah, and
what's the problem with that?
It worked for John Wick. It worked for Keanu, and John Wick is the movie that brings Keanu back
because all those things you said they accomplished. It's simple plot, but well directed, nicely shot. Good action sequences and a deliverable
Keanu's getting back to his basics.
Yeah, deliverable performance that satisfies the story and the motivation.
Reminds you why you love this guy in the first place.
Exactly.
Keanu's whole performance in John Wick is calibrated to remind you why you like Keanu Reeves.
Yes.
And this movie attempts to do the same thing.
Keyword attempts.
Yes, this tries to do the same thing for Travolta, and you really get the vibe watching this that he is convinced.
Out of all those aspects that we talked about, like simple plot, good directing, nicely shot, deliverable performance, so those 4 things, did it accomplish any of those things?
No.
No.
What it does accomplish is the
Jeff's
part
already yawning.
Yes. It accomplishes the part from John Wick where he busts the floor open and gets all his old guns out, except Travolta busts open his closet wall and does that in this movie.
Yeah.
Exhilarating.
Yeah.
So this movie's kind of, it's Travolta's attempt at an action star comeback. And he's trying to remind you why you loved him in the first place.
Wait, why we loved him in the first place? He was singing and dancing in Brooklyn. That's why we loved him in the first place.
Exactly the problem here. Is that he's like, you know what they loved about me?
He was a 1950s greaser.
They loved that I was a badass.
He was a disco jockey guy.
They loved that I was
He was a sound technician.
They loved that I was a wry, slightly funny badass in those movies I did. And this is the problem we're having with Travolta, where he keeps improperly calibrating what he thinks audiences want out of him.
Yes.
This
is a good point.
And he thinks this is the type of thing they're looking for him.
Right.
He thinks I've just been in bad movies. What people want is
they want the Pulp Fiction Travolta.
They want the Pulp Fiction drama, but not even he misunderstands the Pulp Fiction Travolta.
He does.
He doesn't understand the joy of that movie is that he's playing a lovable idiot.
Right.
He's like, no, I was a badass in that movie.
Right. I was a gunslinger guy.
Yeah. And he thinks that's what people want out of him. When really his whole bit is we talked about that Lily Tomlin quote from 7 years ago or whatever.
Yes.
Where she was saying every Travolta performance is a reflection of masculinity and some aspect of it being explored.
Yeah.
And so much of it comes out of him being kind of like a doofus, kind of like a goof.
Yeah.
And his best performances are the ones that play with that.
But I agree, because even in the films where he is quote unquote an action badass.
Yeah.
And I can think of 2 main big ones. I can think of
Broken Arrow.
I was going to say Broken Arrow and Face Off.
Yeah.
Broken Arrow and Face Off are probably the 2
but he's bathing in the river of ham in those movies. He's going full ham.
He is going full ham.
Yes.
And I agree. All the other movies, he's not gunslinging action star. I mean, there's Swordfish, but he's again, he's
over the top.
He's over the top.
And this movie is over the top in the wrong way. In those movies,
Right.
he is calibrating himself to be over the top. In this movie, he's trying to give this grounded action movie, soulful performance, when he should be dialed to an 11,
right,
at all times. And speaking of being dialed to an 11, we gotta talk about this wig.
Are we going there?
I read this in a letterbox review of this movie that I think summed up the plot of it better than I ever could.
Yeah.
It said this movie is just called it's John Wick.
Do we want to cue the hair ranking music?
Yeah, let's do the hair ranking.
All right,
we haven't even started the plot.
Cue the hair ranking music. Welcome to the hair ranking. Yeah, it's a fucking wig.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And it's a bad wig.
It looks like a dead raccoon.
It looks like the okay, here's the thing. Did you notice the hair colors don't match?
Yes.
It starts jet black on the base, but then fades to a brown as it gets higher. Did you notice that?
I did.
At the roots of the hair, it's black, but as the roots stem out and it gets to more floofy hair, it turns brown. What is that? And also, the way it's perched up, and the side
Yeah.
burns, and then the back also with the hairline at the top of the forehead, it looks glued on.
Yes.
Like it does not look.
There's like a straight line.
Yes.
Is the problem.
Yes. So I want to say this is going to go pretty darn low. I think I already have one wig Travolta in a low spot of the list. I think it's going to go right next to it.
All right, here's what we got.
Okay.
I want audiences to know that on our final episode of this show, we will just be reading the entire hair ranking from top to bottom.
Put it above. Wait a second. Put it above. What did he look like in Criminal Activities?
It was the same thing where it was like a wig, but it was just like his normal hair as a wig, which is kind of what's happening here. Except this one, like it tries to be floofed up, and it just is not working. In Criminal Activities, it's just like the center part.
Put it above Killing Season, below Savages.
Above Killing Season, below Savages.
Yeah,
you got it.
I think that's fair because Killing Season, it's above Killing Season because Killing Season was just painted on his head.
Yeah.
It's borderline. I think you might like it.
I think you might.
Nope,
like it.
we're not going there today.
I'm gonna pray for you, and I
Jeff,
think you
it is
might
April
like
24th.
it.
We are not doing this.
We're not doing this.
Not on April 24th.
Okay, fine. Jolly old St. Nicholson won't come back.
Is that it for the context corner and the hair ranking?
I think that's it for the hair ranking, and basically that's it for the context corner.
Christopher Meloni's in this movie.
He is in this movie. This movie has a weird cast.
Is this around the time he left SVU to go and do features, or was he still doing?
So this movie comes out in 2016, and he leaves SVU in 2011. So this is like 5 years into his
departure.
Yeah, attempt to be in movies, which doesn't really work out for him.
Hey,
because he's back on SVU now.
Well, yeah, but
do you know the movies he's in? Name me the movies he's in.
He was in Man of Steel.
He was in Man of Steel.
He was pretty good at it too.
He's like the 7th lead in Man. He's like no, he's not even the 7th. He's like the 11th lead in Man of Steel.
Pretty good. He's a pretty good.
He's good. He's good.
Christopher Meloni is a good actor, folks.
He is a very good actor.
Yeah.
But name me another movie Christopher Meloni was in between his SVU stints besides this and Man of Steel.
No. I think I do have one. I'm just trying to figure out what it was. It was another detective movie.
Another detective movie.
Like he played another like detective like person.
I think this is you're proving my point right now.
Well, no, but okay, I'm looking it up. Whatever he else was in.
I can just list you what he's in.
Okay, list me.
In between leaving SVU and coming back to SVU 10 years later, he is in Man of Steel, 42, the Harrison Ford Chadwick Boseman movie.
Yeah, he's probably good in that.
Jack Robinson. White Bird and a Blizzard. Small Time.
Mm-mm.
They Came Together.
Mm-mm.
Sin City, A Dame to Kill For.
Mm-mm.
The Diary of a Teenage Girl. I Am Wrath. Marauders. Almost Friends. Snatched. That's it. He goes back to TV after that.
Okay, but Man of Steel and 42 are hits.
Good movies, not because of him. He's a little bit of texture in the background in those movies.
But he's a good actor.
Which is he actually has a more successful film career before he leaves SVU. Because he's in, all 3 Harold and Kumar movies. He's in Wet Hot American Summer, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I mean, he's not like, popping off because he's popping off on TV. But prior to leaving SVU, he's doing better stuff than he does after. Because he's just, he did SVU for 10, 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of being Detective Elliot Stabler, which is also a very funny name.
Why is Elliot Stabler a funny name?
Detective Elliot Stabler. It's just fun to say.
Detective Elliot Stabler?
It's a fun thing to say.
I don't know. Why?
It's just fun.
Detective Jeff Sweeney. Is that fun?
No,
is that fun?
Because my name's not fun. Detective Elliot Stabler is fun.
What about Olivia Benson?
John
Cragen.
No.
Ice-T.
Ice-T is fun.
Ice-T is fun.
It's so funny that Ice-T is in those. Is in that show still.
Guys, the thing for little girls.
Ice-T is so thrilled that he just gets to show up 4 days a week or something like that, say some nonsense into a camera, and then take the rest of his time off.
I mean, Jeff, we work in an industry where we experience that a lot.
Yes. But I'm just so happy for Ice-T.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy he's found this place for himself.
Me too. Okay. I guess we should start talking about the movie.
Yeah, we might as well just dive right into it.
So if the opening of the film logos weren't terrible enough, try another 10 minutes of news
Oh yeah,
flashes.
it never ends.
It never ends. I was like, so I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like in a rush to watch this movie this morning, but I was cutting down to the wire between when I had to leave to come get here.
Yeah.
And so I was contemplating like fast forwarding through some of this like bullshit. Like I was like, I don't need the credits. I don't need like all, because basically what this is telling you is it takes place in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, because the tax incentives were good. This is like the fourth movie we've covered set in Ohio at this time.
Ohio was killing it at one point.
Yeah.
What
it's
happened?
funny because like Ohio looks very distinctively Ohio.
Does it?
I don't know what it is.
Does it? I feel like Ohio, you can pull off like
I know you
Indiana,
can pull
Michigan,
up,
Wisconsin,
but there's something about
Illinois.
these Ohio cities
that
looks so ridiculously Ohio. Like it just looks like boring. It looks like bread. Like these cities look like bread. They look like bread.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. But what happened? Why did they stop? Why did the tax incentives change?
Tax incentives got better other places. Now everyone's in Georgia.
Yeah,
We litigated this on criminal activities, I feel like.
Yeah, we probably did. So anyway, basically it takes place in Columbus, Ohio, and there's a crime wave happening.
Yeah, it is established that apparently Columbus, Ohio is the worst city in the world.
Worse than Chicago.
It
worse
is
than LA.
It established that apparently the purge happens every night in Columbus, Ohio.
It seems that way.
And for a movie that we learned was developed by this company, Patriot Pictures, that seems extremely like,
on brand,
conservative-y company.
Like, look at our good old American hometown being overrun.
Yeah, being overrun by drug dealers,
right,
and criminals,
which is white.
And none of them are white.
Right. Well, I was just about to say that, which is like conservative alt-right code word for black people.
Yes.
So,
because it's not just like a little bit of news at the beginning of this movie. It's like
it's a lot.
It's a long sequence.
It's forever.
Like, I wouldn't have had there's a lot of movies that are like Death Wish and whatnot, which just like, kind of use this as the code for like your main character going out and killing criminals or whatever. And I'm like, fine, whatever. I understand you need the incentive, but the fact that it just keeps going.
Okay.
And
pause. Did you see that movie with Russell Crowe, Unhinged?
No, but I heard it's very funny.
Did you? It has this exact same opening.
Yeah.
But it's instead of a series of like crime waves, it's road rage and traffic jam stuff. I shit you not, ladies and gentlemen. Go to YouTube and look up the opening of Unhinged. It's the same opening as I Am Wrath, but instead of like drug dealers and homicides, it's road rage, it's road rage assaults and how bad traffic is.
And the thing is, this does not play into the movie at all, this opening.
Not really, no.
Not really. Because the plot of this movie is not about like crime getting so crazy.
It's about a corrupt system.
Yeah, it's about a corrupt official having somebody killed and blaming it on a crime wave. Which is not the worst plot for a movie. That's not the worst idea.
But it misleads you into thinking that this is what's going to happen is a random act.
Yes.
It's not a random act.
And it spends so much time like using this as the justification for Travolta's rampage. But that when you get to the movie, you don't need that justification.
Right, no.
You get it.
So at the end of all of this crime scene stuff, we also get introduced to like the corrupt governor.
Yes.
Who insists that there is no crime wave.
Yes. Governor John Meserve, which is quite a name. I also would like to show you the plot section on Wikipedia for this movie, which has a tagline at the bottom that says, "This article's plots are maybe too long or excessively detailed." And observe. This thing's like 7 to 8 paragraphs.
Well,
chonky.
Jeff, you notice I'm not using Wikipedia to list out the plot.
Well,
just saying.
I always have
just
the Wikipedia.
Saying.
Okay.
I know. After that, it's not Travolta yet. It is...
Yeah, we start with the governor, and he's giving his speech
Yes.
about how, like, we have defeated crime in the city.
Did you notice?
And I'm like, well, wait, didn't we just spend 6 to 7 minutes watching crime happen in the city?
Well, that was the whole point of which. It's like they're hitting the hammer on the head of the nail again because they just got done with this montage saying like the governor's corrupt and he's saying the crime wave's down. Cut to the governor.
Yeah.
In the same shot too, by the way. They using news clippets in that montage, and then when they cut to the conference, it's from the same clips. Like they just shot it once. They didn't shoot it twice. They shot it once.
You had a one day at that location.
Yeah. And
they
so
have 3 hours.
What I love about that is you get this wide shot of him with his crowd, and he's like, "We have defeated crime," or whatever. Then it cuts to a reverse, like French over from him, but you see the immediate crowd in front of him. Did you notice, Jeff, that he is like surrounded by all white people?
Yes.
But one black person in the front row.
Yes.
It's like the AD, whoever was dealing background that day, said, "Listen, Charlie's the background PA or whoever the fuck it is. How many black people do we have on this?"
Yeah.
"Oh, I think we just have I think we just have Sharon today, man." It's like, okay, we're gonna put her in the front row. It's like, what?
Well, it's in some way it does, tell the story that this movie is accidentally trying to tell. I don't know if it's trying to tell the point. Like, it's trying to be about a corrupt official who scapegoats minority communities.
Yeah.
For his own benefit.
Yeah.
And in some way that's maybe intentional, but I have no idea.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
So that goes from that conference. Oh, and then there's like a pipeline protest that's happening behind him, and
he's like, let's here for the crime. Let's hear for the pipeline, and everyone up front goes quiet, and there's like a protest group in the back.
And they're like, as I said before, the pipeline will boom the economy. Jeff, does the pipeline ever come back?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, because
that's the catalyst of the movie.
That is the catalyst, because it's about that whole report.
Because he says during this
EPA
meeting, he's like, the EPA has their whatever about the pipeline.
We have
had an independent commission that's going to come in and see if the pipeline is
negative.
And he's like, the doctor leading is Vivian Hill. And when they cut to Vivian Hill, who is Travolta's
wife in this
movie. And she's at home with her family.
Yeah.
Her daughter and her granddaughter or grandson.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I'm so stressed working on this report about the pollutants in the pipeline or whatever."
Yeah.
And she's like, "But I got to go pick up your father."
Cut to
the funniest shot of this movie. It's Travolta on an escalator with the biggest smile on his face, wig beaming off his forehead. And he's just like, and you just get the vibe that in this moment, he's just like, "This movie's bringing me back. This is my reintroduction, baby. I'm getting back into the big leagues now." And it's very funny.
He did not, dear reader.
Yes. Dear reader.
What I love, I think, is he going down the escalator? Or is
he's going down the escalator.
I like that. He's like so optimistic, but his world's already going downhill.
But he gets down there and he meets his wife. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so tired. Let's go home. Let's hang out with let's see our family and whatnot."
They get to the parking garage.
Yeah, they get to the park. It's fucking empty. There's no one else in this parking garage. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think, audience? The second this happened, I'm like, yeah, someone's getting shot in here.
We just spent like 30 hours at the beginning of the movie talking about this crime wave happening in the city. It's John Travolta coming back from a trip we don't know what it is yet, greeted by his wife. They go into an empty parking garage. There's a flat tire on their car.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen?
So two guys come up and they kill his wife and beat up Travolta.
And they steal her purse and run off.
And And Travolta grabs the wife. He's like, "No!"
And there's like one dolly shot that pulls back Travolta holding his dead wife.
Because this movie is artistic with like the little squiggly lines next to it. Travolta's playing Stanley in this movie. Not the beloved Marvel creator, but just a guy named Stanley.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. I liked it. That was good, Jeff.
He's a factory manager of Chrysler, but he's got a secret past. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
We cut to Vivian's funeral. Travolta now has a little gash on his forehead from being beaten up by these thugs.
Yeah.
And he like kisses his wife's body goodbye and tells his daughter, "I can't stay at this funeral. I can't do this." And the priest pulls him aside. He's like, "Here's a Bible and a rosary to help her keep her in a memory." And Charles like, "I don't pray.
She's gone.
She's gone." And the priest says something along the lines of like, "That's why I'm handing this Bible to you." And so Travolta goes home. Cut to the police station.
Yeah, they were at the police station.
We're at the police station.
Where we have the most jamoke detectives you've ever seen.
These two detectives.
What they might as well be eating a jelly-filled bagel. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they're like, well, you didn't see the killer, so
Sam
what can we
Trammell
do?
as Detective Gibson. It's Detectives Gibson and Walker.
The most jamoke detective names.
The most non-existent, like...
You might as well oh my God. Like, because James Gandolfini is already dead at this point, right? He died in 2013. Just imagine
if he had been one of these cops.
If he had been one of the detectives.
Yes. He's just sitting there eating a whole hose. Every scene he has a meatball sub.
Detective Stromboli's back, baby.
Every scene he's just eating a sub.
And he's like, what can I say, Mr. Hill? You didn't see the killer. So
yeah, he's like, you have blood in your eyes. And Troll's like, I didn't have blood in my eyes. And like, yeah, blood in your eyes. You couldn't see well. You said he had a bat tattoo. This guy got an insect.
What I like is that they find the killer.
They do find the guy.
They find the guy.
They do like one of those. They do like a usual suspects lineup, or just a lineup. And Travolta positively IDs the guy, and they're like, "Your evidence isn't enough. We got to let him go."
Says you were not a credible witness.
Yeah.
Which here's my thing about the cops' plan in this, because
it sucks.
It's
terrible.
Sucks. What? Because okay, a little bit fast forward, a little spoiler alert, but the cops are in on this whole thing.
Yes.
Why would they bring him in the first place so John Travolta can see who he is and identify him?
Yeah.
What was that all about? Why do they even do that? Why can't they just say, we can't find him?
Yeah.
That would be so much more believable, right? And he would not be so upset about the justice system at that point, which would lead him to go on his rampage. Mm-hmm. He just believes, oh, the cops just can't find him. Like, that's it. They could have just done that. But instead, they go the extra mile of bringing him in, getting him positively ID'd, be like, your testimony isn't enough. I'm sorry. We got to let him go. And he winks at him as he walks at the police station, the killer. Mm-hmm. His name is Charlie.
Yes. Charlie, spelled L-E-Y at the end instead of the normal.
He's the opposite of Stanley.
But Stanley is so furious. At one point, he says, like, I am full of wrath. But he goes home and he like has his like long dark night of the soul moment, his Garden of Gethsemane moment, and he throws the Bible that the priest came across to him, and it lands and it opens up to Jeremiah 6:11 apparently, and it says, "I am filled with the wrath of the Lord.
I will lay my vengeance upon thee."
And then what happens next? That's the music that I imagine playing in Travolta's head when he says he reads.
Well,
that
he
Bible.
touches the drywall at the back of his closet, but then he doesn't.
Yeah, it's very funny.
He doesn't open it yet.
Well, I also want to say when the Bible lands on the front, there's like a superimposed highlight that goes over the "I am filled with the wrath of the Lord" line. In case you didn't get it. Do you remember this? It's like the light of God like specifically shines on that.
Nice. All right, killing season all over again.
Yeah. He touches the drywall at the back of his closet.
Doesn't open it yet though.
Yeah, and then
he goes on a drive.
Yeah, and he
finds
sees Charlie on the drive, and he's like, "Fuck it!" And he drives back home, busts open the drywall,
takes out a brief, like a bag,
and
cuts
it's
it open,
full of guns,
passports,
and
cash,
money.
It's your assassin kit 101.
Yes,
we've all seen an assassin kit 101. Hell, I have an assassin kit 101. You have an assassin kit 101. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, you all have assassin kits 101.
Okay, can we talk about? I want to give a shout out right now.
Yes,
to the guy who wrote the Wikipedia synopsis of this movie.
Because
it's right at this point, when he does this, the guy who wrote this Wikipedia says, inspired, Stanley now goes by the name Wrath. And for the rest of this Wikipedia synopsis, he refers to him as Wrath instead of Stanley, the guy who wrote this. Wrath uses Dennis's intelligence to track down the men who attacked him at the bar. Shout out to this guy for really committing to this movie. It's probably Travolta.
It's probably one of the production assistants from Patriot Pictures.
Yes. Constantly updating this page.
Yeah.
But he pulls out his briefcase and he makes a phone call to Dennis. The most badass name in the world. Dennis.
Who is played by
Christopher Meloni.
Christopher Meloni, Elliot Stabler!
Who is actually really good in this movie. He's really funny.
He's great.
He said about his role in this movie.
I gave a good 3 minutes.
Yeah, he's like, I gave a good 3 minutes, and that was about it.
That's what
he was here for the money.
Yeah.
He was here to do a little bit of work.
So, Dennis
runs a black ops operation from underneath a barbershop.
Yeah. The scene starts with Travolta walking in and getting a shave.
Yes.
And they have a banter. and they're talking about, oh, remember what's the Black Widow Hawkeye dialogue?
Budapest.
Remember Budapest? They don't say Budapest, but as soon as they start talking like this, I immediately thought of the Hawkeye Black Widow. It's like, oh my god, remember Budapest?
Yeah. It's so annoying.
Here's a sin in movies that I really want to extinguish. Let's stop it with the whole, remember this thing that we did before this movie that the audience doesn't know about? God, how crazy that was, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I'm getting really tired of that bit in many of these movies. But yeah, they do the whole like, remember Budapest? Remember how crazy that shit was?
Yeah.
You said you got out of that life.
Yeah.
You promised Vivian. Vivian was like winning the lottery for your man. I don't know what accent I'm doing for Christopher Meloni. Yeah. He talks like a regular person, but...
And this is just the John Wick thing.
Yeah.
It's just the John Wick thing of like him going to the Continental. Mm-hmm. Except the Continental, like the amount of world building in John Wick is so effective.
It is, and it's
John Wick does an incredible job of just building out this world gradually, intelligently, and like bringing you into it, and you understand the context of everything that's happening.
And John Wick, on paper, it sounds ridiculous.
Yes.
It's like, oh, this guy is
his dog gets...
He's a former Black Ops assassin, and, you know, his dog gets killed, and he has to get revenge. Oh, but by the way, there's a secret underground society of assassins that goes run by this hotel, and they have the currency of the... Like, what?
But it's so good. It's so effective.
Effective in the movie.
And by John Wick 2, like, they're really building out the, like, the world. I love it.
Yeah.
Those movies are so good. But this one, Dennis is just like, yeah, I did Black Ops in the day, and now I work under a barbershop. And Troll's like, yeah, here I go.
And I love Christopher Meloni to death, but God, whoever wrote this character really was like the prepper dude.
Yeah.
Because this guy in his basement has like a target like practice.
Yeah.
Like
he has a target practice and like a gun.
Yeah. And just multiple stuff. Like Christopher Meloni's Dennis is the ultimate alt-right prepper.
Yes.
So...
Oh, Patriot Pictures, we're on to you.
We are on to you. Are they still like...
Yeah, apparently they're still making things. They're all like action movies like this.
Makes sense.
So with Dennis's help, he finds one of the guys who attacks him.
Yeah.
He says to Dennis like, yeah, here are the guys. Here's what they look like. And Dennis like somehow finds pictures of all these guys.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, one of them's at a bar right now.
He goes to that bar.
Yeah, he goes to the bar and he beats up the guy, and the guy beats him up, and then Dennis pops up behind the guy and kills him, which happens 7 more times throughout this movie. Yeah. Where the guy has the gun at Travolta, and Travolta's like, I didn't come alone, and Dennis like shoots him behind.
It's like, why did you kill my wife?
Yeah.
And he's like, you wouldn't understand. It's like, where's Charlie? It's like, I ain't saying shit. And then pop.
Yeah, they kill this guy.
They roast his body in a dumpster.
Yes. They light him on fire.
Which actually being caught by camera.
Yes.
By one of Lenny's or Lemmy's or whatever the fuck the guy that was a main drug dealer in this movie.
Lenny K. Lenny K is what I think they call him.
Lenny K for crystal, because this dude's a crystal dealer.
Yeah.
So Lenny K, we get introduced to Lenny K.
But it's around this point where this movie kind of like snaps into my kind of movie.
What?
It snaps into like this shitty buddy cop movie between Travolta and Meloni.
But it doesn't commit to the buddy copness.
It doesn't commit to it, which is why it doesn't work. But like, this is when the movie I'm like, okay, there's some juice to this. There's some juice to this kind of low rent action movie aesthetic, which is Travolta and Meloni just popping fools.
If it had done that,
yes,
then yes, great.
Because the next scene is when I'm like hooting and hollering watching this movie.
That is the scene where
Travolta goes to this tattoo parlor.
This is the same scene where like Meloni gets cornered in his barbershop.
That happens roughly the same time as this.
Yeah, it's like it happens simultaneously.
Yeah, it happens cross-cut.
Because
the gang decides they get a picture of Meloni, but they don't have one of Travolta.
Right.
So they send Charlie goes to rough up Meloni with some of the guys at the barbershop. And
How does that go for them?
Meloni kills 2 of them, and Charlie runs off.
Yeah, because Meloni gets cornered by like 3 guns, but he uses his ninja tactics.
Yeah,
and gets the upper hand.
Turns into a ninja for a second.
Yeah.
Chris Meloni, who like...
He has a really good line in this because he uses his shin to break a baseball bat that one of the bad guys has. And he's like, ow, that really hurt.
Yeah.
Just like just keeps killing the guys. And I was like, that's good. That's good. That's a good bit. Those were his good 3 minutes. Those were his 3 minutes.
And then Travolta's at this tattoo parlor. He walks and he's like, I'm looking for a...
Lars?
Lars. And this guy behind the counter's like, he's gone, but I can hit you up.
What are you looking for? The bartender!
But no, Travolta says, I got an idea for a tattoo. And then, like...
They're doing his tattoo on his back.
Quite a substantial tattoo. Travolta was there for a while waiting.
He's supposed to wait for that to settle, too, man. Those can get infected.
And it's very funny because, like...
They didn't even put saran wrap over it.
We just cut, like... We cut to Meloni and then we're back to Travolta. And he's, like, laying shirtless on a table getting a tattoo done on his back. Mm-hmm. And the guy's like, what is this? And Travolta's like, it's from the Bible. You're like, oh, he probably got a little, like, eye breath written on his back. Dear reader, when he sits up.
When it cuts to the other angle,
would you like to describe how large this is?
It is full back.
It is his full back. There's a giant cross from, like, the shoulder blades down. And at the top, in, like, Helvetica, it's written, like, I am wrath. It's ridiculous.
Very ridiculous.
And he kills Lars, because Lars finally shows up, along with the other tattoo car guy. And he makes off with with drugs and money that were at the tattoo parlor.
So they set up a sting operation.
Yeah, they set up a sting with Charlie. Meanwhile, at the same time, our two, like, Jamoke detectives.
We find out who they're in on it
with the governor.
Lenny K.
Lenny K and the governor.
Well, we didn't find out, like, the governor was in on it until, like, later, right? Because that was, like, when he finds Lenny K and he's like, this goes all the way to the top. It's like, what? The governor?
Like, it roughly all happens around the same time.
But here's the thing, though. I will say this about that is we could have already found out the governor was in on it from, like, minute 5.
Yeah, from minute 1.
Yeah.
When the governor's like, this is perfectly fine, and then she gets killed for investigating it.
Yeah, it's very easy to tell, like, if the governor's in on it.
Yeah.
So it's not a reveal.
Yeah. But no, roughly around this time, like, you know, the detective, Lenny K, Lemmy K, Lemmy, it's with an M. The, like, gang lord has a video of the governor's son murdering somebody at a club.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is, I think.
Oh, I thought it was he was like I don't know.
He's like choking somebody to death.
I thought it was like a sexual assault thing.
Maybe it was a sexual assault. Whatever it is, it's egregious.
Yeah, it's like something where it's like, if this gets out,
yeah, it'll ruin my campaign for re-election.
Right.
And so
whatever. Why do the detectives care what happened to the governor?
Because the detective is promised to be police commissioner if there's a re-election, or police captain or something.
There's always something.
Yeah. And so the cops are now trying to find Travolta, Stanley, Wrath. Wrath. He is Wrath.
He is Wrath.
He is Wrath. What can you say? He is
Stanley
Wrath.
Hill.
Stanley Wrath Hill. Mr. Wrath.
Mr. Wrath.
Stuart,
Dr.
Have we talked about the posters for this movie yet?
No, but we probably should.
Yeah, we should talk about the posters for this movie.
Let's talk about the posters.
Because I'm just going to show them to you. Because, like, the audience can't see them. Because I'm just describing them. All right, here's the first poster for this movie.
Oh, my God. Why does his face look like that?
Travolta looks like a Ken doll in this.
It doesn't look like his face.
Here's the other poster for this movie.
That's, like, a little bit better, but why is the gun so... Look at the nozzle of the gun.
It's rather large.
It's not a gun. Okay, that is CGI.
There's Travolta's fully rendered in this one.
That is egregious. What the hell? He looks like the Tin Man. And
I advise anyone to look up posters for I Am Wrath and, like, go along with us. Because the one we're looking at right now is, like, Travolta, like, standing like a plank of wood with I Am Wrath in red font in front of him.
He looks like what? I don't know. Like,
this one's someone else's body, which Travolta photoshopped onto it.
Yeah, absolutely. And why is that gun super small?
Yeah.
But the other gun is ginormous.
Okay. I just wanted to show those to you very quickly. So they set up a sting operation. Where they call up
Charlie. Yeah.
And they're like, come to this club and get the money and the drugs, and we won't do something. Charlie will get killed if he doesn't have this stuff. So they make a deal for him to come there.
So they find Charlie.
Yeah, they go to this club, which has a great name, I want to say.
What's the name?
It's called the House of Soul, but spelled Seoul.
Oh, it's like a Korean
club,
play. Yeah.
Which is a good name.
That is actually
House of Soul.
Yeah.
I like that. So they lure Charlie to the VIP room,
They also spring a trap on them too, but these guys are well trained,
Yeah.
so obviously they start killing people left and right.
And the most John Wick knockoff act. It's like the club scene from John Wick.
It's so bad though.
It's so bad.
It's so terrible.
Yeah, it's like Travolta's trying to do the Keanu like just like the thing where he's popping off endless shots and like long takes.
And is there a stunt double?
It looks like it's Travolta, but he's doing like kind of slow.
Because that's the thing. It's like I didn't think maybe they couldn't afford like a good stunt team for this or whatever, and it's literally just Travolta doing his best.
Because it is a very like low energy action scene.
It
which
is
the
very
problem
low
with it.
energy. It's not good. It's not good at all. Which I hate to say because it's like, stunt people do a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
You always want to like compliment them for like all their good choreography skills and designing action pieces. But I'm sorry, whoever the stunt coordinator was on this,
It ain't working.
it ain't working.
And the camera's not doing them any credit.
No, that's also true.
Because like this is straight up just the scene from John Wick. It's the exact same structure as the club scene from John Wick.
But it's not as good.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. Like Keanu does it though.
Yes, Keanu does it, and
He puts in the work, he exercises, like he does all the training things in the pre-production for it, and then when he gets on screen, and the camera favors it too, because it doesn't cut to these like weird OTS POV things of it. It's just a wide shot profile of Keanu doing his thing, and it pays off. It looks good.
Yes. This ain't happening.
No,
is what is the problem.
Basically, they get Charlie.
Yeah,
and eventually Travolta questions him, and he's like, "Oh, this blah 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 blah. You'll never know why I killed your wife or whatever." Bam, and he kills.
And they're
him.
like, "It's bigger than this."
So then they get away. Detective Stabler is like, "You need to let this go. We killed Charlie.
Yeah.
You don't want to dig this." Like,
And he's
it's
like,
not
"It goes
over.
deeper.
It goes deeper. It's not over yet."
And so they like Travolta goes to confession around this time, right?
Yeah.
And this priest is just like, "You should unload your sins. We are all already forgiven by God. Confession is a great way to get through it." And he's probably expecting Travolta to be like, I've
Looked at
committed
porn
some
a couple
sins.
times.
I've watched porn. I've fornicated."
Yeah.
Instead, Travolta he starts off and he's like, "Father, I have murdered many men." Whoa!
Some for a reason, some for no reason.
Yeah, the priest is like, "Whoa, what's going on? I have a known vigilante murderer in my church right now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but nothing really comes out of that.
And the priest is very chill about all this. The priest is like, "My son, you will be forgiven in the eyes of your Christ." And Charles is like, "Yeah, I killed a bunch of guys." And so,
was this supposed to be a good scene?
I think it was an attempt
To be like an emotional scene or whatever?
Yes.
It is not.
It is not.
It comes off as weird.
There's like a cross gets like lit on a Travolta. There's a weird little montage thing that happens here. It's very funny.
Yeah. After this is when Lenny Kaye finds Travolta's family.
Yeah, Lemmy K goes to Travolta's house and is holding his daughter.
Does he kill a babysitter?
Here's the thing. I wrote in my notes, who just died?
Yeah, I do know.
Because there's Travolta's daughter, and she's packing up like...
There's her son.
Her son.
Her husband's not home.
Yeah, Travolta's grandson. And there's like another woman there who's just like helping. And then Lemmy K shows up, and Travolta's daughter, or
There's
Stanley's daughter, whose name... I won't just start using her name.
Abby?
Abby Rath. Abby C. Rath. Abby M. Rath.
Abby Rath Hill.
Abby Rath Hill. No, it's just Abby Rath because Rath is the new last
Rath
name.
Abby
Yes.
Patrick Hill.
Yes. And so she's like, she grabs a knife and tries to stab one of the thugs, and then Lemmy K kills this random woman. And I was like, I thought Travolta had 2 daughters. And I was like, this is kind of being like not acknowledged that someone just got popped.
And it might have been someone important.
Yeah, no, I think it was just like a random babysitter. But they never talk about this.
No, they don't.
They're all very chill and happy afterward, instead of a dead babysitter probably lying in their living room.
Right in front of the kid.
Right in front of the kid. Kid's going to have trauma. Capital T trauma. But anyway, Travolta shows up, and Lemmy K has him at gunpoint. And then he's like, "You shouldn't have come alone." Travolta's like, "I'm not alone." And then fucking Dennis pops in again. He snipes him. He kills Lemmy. And then who shows up?
The detectives.
The detectives show up.
And
it's
the detectives are like...
We're like 8 layers deep at this point.
And the detectives who... one of the detective who, like, corners him, his partner shows up. He's like, I didn't come alone. You should not have come alone yourself. He's like, I did not come alone. And then Dennis does the same thing again.
Yeah, Dennis... he pulls the exact same bit. Except this time, the detective has a gun pointed at Travolta, and Travolta has a gun pointed at him. And they're, like, evenly matched. And then Dennis comes in and points a gun at the detective. And the detective's like kind of moving his gun between him. Dennis pulls out a second pistol. Christopher Meloni's just holding 2 guns akimbo at the detective. The detective's like, all right, you got me. It's
like,
the second gun did it.
All right, fellas, maybe we should think of another way to how to handle this.
Yeah.
So then that's when they force the detectives to take them to the governor's mansion?
Yes.
So we find out that the governor's behind this.
Yes.
But when I say we found out a while ago.
Yes.
But the movie intends on you finding out the governor's behind this at this point.
And so they drive to the governor's mansion and they knock out the detectives. One of them is tied up in the trunk, and the other one is like
handcuffed to the steering wheel.
Handcuffs to the steering wheel.
So the detective wakes up and he sees like a bunch of dead guards outside.
Yeah, they get around having to do an action scene here. They pull a hobbit. The detective gets a hit in the head, and then he wakes up and there's a bunch of dead bodies around.
Yeah.
So they don't have to film the action scene there. Because we just pick up a Travolta inside the house, and he shoots like 4 guards.
And then the governor's apparently an ex-Black Ops guy.
Yeah, the governor pulls out a shotgun and is the first person in this movie to actually put up a fight to Travolta.
Because he's apparently...
Or, no, I shouldn't say Wrath, to Mr. Wrath.
Yeah.
Mr. Wrath gets into a fight with the governor, and then he's about to kill the governor. And he's like, why did you do it? And the governor's like, yeah, the greater good. I always worked for the greater good. You know what it was like to be a young Irish kid who became the governor. And he's like, who are you? And Troll's like, I am Wrath. And then he kills the governor.
He snaps his fingers and half the universe comes back.
He kills the governor.
Yeah.
And the governor's wife runs in and screams. And Troll's like, no, I won't kill you. I only killed him. And it's like, that's supposed to be comforting to her. It's great.
And then a bunch of police show up.
Yeah, a bunch of police show up, and they all have their guns pointed at Wrath.
And Wrath walks to the balcony.
Does this dramatic, sacrifice moment.
Suicide by cop.
Yeah, he walks down the balcony.
Except he's wearing knee thrill.
Yeah. he's wearing pure knee thrill.
You're full of surprises, Mr. Frodo.
You're full of surprises, Mr. Wrath.
Because apparently this dude gets laid out. Like Valley of Violet style, laid out.
Yes.
And he falls back, but then it's one of those scenes where they cut open his shirt and it reveals there's the bulletproof vest. Here's the thing, though.
Because he gets lit up.
Like, he probably got shot in, the head or the neck. And also, the vest only covers his, top torso. It doesn't cover his stomach. Yeah. So, how the fuck does he... But whatever. Long story short, he survives.
We're led to believe he died, but then we cut to a hospital. And Abby's standing outside, and she's just like, I want to see my dad. And
it's you can't. He's a...
Oh, also, he blew up the detectives.
Yes, he blew up.
The car exploded.
We forgot about that. One of the detectives...
is in the explosion. The other one, kind of jumps out, but is still, to our knowledge, hit by it.
Yeah.
But there's a twist. But Abby's told, your dad's going to be trying a FISA court.
No jury.
They're going to, black site him.
Is that a thing?
It is.
Okay.
Yes. It's a shameful part of this country's history.
Gotcha.
That is not even history, still to this day. Anyway, they're going to move him from the hospital to a prison hospital immediately. And Abby's not allowed to see him.
Abby storms into the room.
So she runs into the room and is like, Dad! And she gives him a hug. Someone else happens too.
We'll find out later.
Yeah, we'll find out. And so she goes.
Cut to the guard's night shift.
Yeah, the guard shift changes over, and a guard comes over, and then another guard's like, I'm going to go to the vending machine or whatever.
So you should get coffee. The other guy turns around and reveals
it's the other detective with a Two-Face burn on half his face.
Because that was the guy that jumped out of the trunk and made it out just before
Detective
the explosion.
Walker.
Yes. So he goes inside the hospital room.
Yeah.
Hides a gun underneath his hat. Pulls the hat away. Has a gun aimed at Travolta, who's conscious. He's awake right now.
Yeah.
He's like, man, if I kill you, they'll make me a detective again, maybe. And then
what happens?
He aims a gun at him, and then Travolta, there's a flashback.
Yeah, we got a flashback to Abby running in the room, and she slides a gun under his pillow. And so Travolta whips the gun out and shoots him. But then who else is right behind the detective? Dennis pulls the same shit.
Disguised as a doctor.
Yeah, with a silencer on his gun. And he's like, I could have gotten him.
And he's like, you waited till the last second.
Yeah. This movie that ends very, this movie keeps doing these weird tonal shifts where like it's this guy mourning for his lost love, and it's like these two cops are just trading barbs back and forth. These two guys are just trading barbs back and forth because they're good buddies.
They're jabokes.
Yeah, those are the parts of the movie I like, is when it's just the two of them like shooting the shit and shooting like criminals.
Yeah. So then he wheels him out of the hospital.
Yeah,
and then it fades.
Over a while, there's an announcement like the prisoner has escaped, and no guards appear.
ICU Ward 3 or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah.
And they just he pushes Travolta out and they escape.
So then we fade to black, and then we come back, and what's that?
We're at Abby's house, and she's there with her husband and her son, and she gets a postcard in the mail from Sao Paulo.
Yeah,
and it's Travolta being like, "I'm doing great, miss you, love you all," and then she smiles, and the movie ends.
That really is how the movie.
That is how the movie. Like this, I feel like we kind of spade rounded the plot there because there's not much to talk about.
Right.
This is John Wick.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the same vein as a lot of the movies we're talking about now, where there's really not a lot to it.
I would give it a 4 out of 10.
I would give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Because it did have some like raw pleasures to it that I enjoyed.
Christopher Meloni
was good. All like the dumb bits were funny. When it tried to be a real movie, it failed.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a sleeper for me.
Mm-hmm. So this movie comes out. They shot this for an $18 million budget.
18.
It makes $2.5 million, losing 15.5 at the box office. However, this appears to be a recurring direct-to-video hit.
Really?
I don't know if it makes its budget back, but I don't even want to say hit. But it starts making the rounds in, Redbox and
I do remember this was a DVD rental hit, like, because it was everywhere.
Yes. It just kind of goes everywhere and becomes one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I just see a review for this as New John Travolta Iron Breath is basically a John Wick reboot, but less entertaining.
Yeah.
Which is a good way to describe this.
But
it comes down, it doesn't really do anything for him.
It doesn't do anything for Christopher Meloni. Doesn't do anything for anybody else.
Yeah. It gets an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. It's about I'd say.
I mean, I enjoyed it more than I didn't, but I also didn't enjoy it that much. It's just an attempt. It's a like of all these movies we've been talking about, this one's the most like obvious like attempt at a comeback, because it's just a John Wick ripoff.
Right.
And it's clear like what Travolta's trying to go for. It's clear what the movie's trying to go for, and it just doesn't work for the movie. It doesn't work for anything.
Well, and I still hold that. I think
it just doesn't exist.
If it had the same role reversal like you had in like Valley of Violence, where Travolta wasn't the main lead, and he was like the dentist character, and instead it was Christopher Meloni who was the main character, I think that would have already have helped the movie a lot.
Yeah, Christopher Meloni would have been better for like the kind of soulful side of this, and Travolta would have been better as like the entertaining special. But I also don't want to steal that from Meloni, because he's good.
Meloni is good, and I agree 100%. But
there's really no version of where this movie's good.
No,
there are versions where it's slightly better, but there's no version where this movie's good.
Right? Yeah. No, there's no rule fixing it.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say about this movie.
I'm going to check my notes, see if I have anything else to say, but I don't think I do. There is a really good line in this movie I want to talk about.
Which is?
Right before he kills the governor, he's pointing the gun. The governor's like, "What do you want?" And Charles is like, or Wrath is like, "Justice." And the governor goes, "Wrong branch of government."
Oh,
This
yeah.
is the executive branch and not the justice branch.
It's the judicial branch. That's a good one, man. Real pat on the back for that one, guys.
Shout out to the writer of this movie. I'm going to give you a specific shout. Shout out to Yvan Gauthier and Paul Sloan for writing that line. But yeah, that's all I got to say about this movie. But you know what I do want to say?
Yeah.
This is our last movie before we get to the big one.
What big one?
The movie that started this whole show.
Oh, Saturday Night Fever?
Yes. No. Because folks, next week,
Grease?
what you have to look forward to is a special episode. You folks have to look forward to our it's not a finale. but it's our spectacular.
It's our magnum opus.
This is our magnum opus. Next week, you folks are going to have quite the episode on the 2018 motion picture, Gotti. That's right. So make sure to have a lot of time in your schedule cleared out because it's going to be a long episode.
We're going
to have a lot of special guests coming in. We're going to have a lot of celebrations, a lot of surprises in store for you folks. So prepare yourselves because next week you're getting Gotti'd.
I don't know if I'm prepared.
Stuart, we have quite the week ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do. All right. Well,
yes.
I don't want to keep the audience waiting if they got the next one queued up.
If you got Gotti queued up, get ready because it's a Lord he coming.
Lord, he coming.
Yes.
Right.
So, as always, thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Pop to our Reddit, r/Travolting. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at TravoltingPod. Email us at TravoltingPodcast@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney.
Nar.
Nar. And as always, special thanks to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for the theme music that is now taking you out.